Shalom bien-aimés, je vous salue dans le saint et le précieux nom de Jésus-Christ. Je vais vous faire suivre une vidéo. C'est le témoignage d'une dame qui, peut-être elle ne le sait pas, mais elle a été utilisée par des satanistes comme objet sexuel et objet de rites, de rituels sataniques. Cette vidéo, c'est pour ouvrir nos yeux, pour ceux qui ne le savaient pas, et attirer notre attention par rapport au monde dans lequel nous vivons. Nous vivons dans un monde extrêmement méchant, extrêmement dangereux. Nous sommes entourés de personnes sans foi ni loi, qui sont prêtes à tout pour véritablement servir leur Dieu, avec petit d, leur Dieu qui est Satan. Cette femme a été esclave et sexuelle pendant des années, depuis sa naissance. Elle a été, contre sa volonté, l'objet d'un groupe de satanistes. Et elle raconte des choses extraordinairement effroyables. C'est vraiment triste. Ceci, c'est non seulement pour attirer notre attention, mais ça devrait nous donner de comprendre à quel point nous avons la grâce, nous qui connaissons le Seigneur Jésus-Christ, à quel point nous devons nous sentir reconnaissants envers Dieu de nous avoir cherchés et trouvés. À quel point nous devons nous sentir reconnaissants envers le Seigneur. Deuxième chose, cette vidéo devrait nous donner de comprendre que si vous avez vos enfants qui circulent là dehors, dans la rue, à l'école, un peu de partout, que ce soit en Occident ou en Afrique, quel que soit le lieu où ils se trouvent, sachez que des personnes méchantes existent. Vous devez prier pour vos enfants. Vous devez veiller sur vos enfants. Vous devez parler avec vos enfants. Vous devez avoir un discours franc avec vos enfants. Vous devez les comprendre. Vous devez chercher à les comprendre. Vous devez avoir une communication franche, honnête, sincère et véridique avec eux. Savoir quand, comment et pourquoi aborder tel ou tel autre sujet. C'est extrêmement important parce que nous vivons aujourd'hui dans une société extrêmement dangereuse, malheureusement. Je vais m'arrêter là. Je vous laisse suivre ce témoignage effroyable. Et vous pourrez lire les sous-titres en français pour ceux qui ne comprennent pas l'anglais. Que le Seigneur vous bénisse abondamment. Shalom.
Some clients own their own island or a big piece of land, and they would buy us just to hunt us. Some laid traps for us, and others would track us down like animals. It was important never to be the one captured first because you didn't want to appear like you weren't playing the game. You would be punished. It's one of the scariest things clients ever had me do.
Well, Kendall claims that she was purchased by wealthy clients to do anything they pleased. Now, sometimes she was used as arm candy, others for very sick games. On the outside, her clients were pillars of their communities. But behind closed doors, she says they were sinister and evil human beings. The story you're about to hear is so shocking, so unbelievable, that your mind is going to struggle to allow you to accept that things like this exist. But they do, and they are happening right now all over the world, even in small towns right here in the United States. Kendall's story begins when she was a newborn and her parents sold her to a powerful man who owns a dangerous international sex trafficking organization, a man she says still owns her and wants her back. Kendall says every glamorous event and plane ride was with a wealthy client who paid for her so they could abuse her in ways, well, they're just simply too horrendous to comprehend. Now, for nearly 4 months, we researched Kendall's story, trying to verify its authenticity. And after speaking confidentially to agencies, we were able to confirm that Kendall has in fact been trafficked. Here's what she told us.
I was born into this world of sex trafficking. It's the only life I've ever known. Since I left, everything has been so hard, and nobody except the man who owns me can help me. I was given to the man who owns me by my birth parents, and I was forced to have sex with clients. One of my first memories was thinking that it was normal for men to be fondling babies. My whole life, I traveled all over the world and would go to some of the biggest events to meet clients and have sex with them. They were all extremely rich and prominent members of society. Sometimes they would just want to have sex with me, and sometimes they'd make me have sex with different people. The clients were often physically abusive. Clients were even allowed to smother me with a pillow or plastic bag while having sex with me, but they were never allowed to leave marks or bruises on my face because I always had to look pretty. The man who owns me constantly manipulated me and did horrible things to me. He would make me be a dog, made me eat feces. I was kept in a cage. Sometimes he would electrocute me as punishment. He said that all of this was happening because it was God's will, because God made me for this. If I told anybody about what was going on, that nobody would believe me. I 100% believed him. I still believe him.
Now you might be saying, Dr. Phil, are you buying all of this? I can tell you that a very reliable source has confirmed to us that Kendall has in fact been trafficked, raped, molested, and severely abused by a very large, very dangerous organization. Now that same source also confirms that she is not a runaway.
I was told by the man who owns me that my birth parents had me for him, so I've always been his. One time I met them and they told me that I should appreciate what they did for me. They told me that this was the best thing for me. I believed that they were right, and I also believed that it was my fault that I didn't appreciate it. The man who owns me told me that I was special to him. I was strong, very smart, and not every girl would be able to do the job that I was made to do. I traveled with him frequently. When he had very special clients, I was the person that they would see. When the man who owns me wasn't around, there were people that we called watchers, whose job was just to watch us, and there were people whose job was just to move us from place to place. When the movers would come for us, they would always come in the middle of the night like they were kidnapping us and drug us. They would put several of us in the trunk of a car. They were constantly moving me to different places, brothels and sometimes to big mansions with servants. In some of these places that we would stay, we would be in basements. In some places we would be in rooms with cages or with tools on the wall, locks with different keys, and they were all used sexually on us. For the little boys, men would have sex with them. When they turned 5, then they were forced to have sex with women. The girls would start having sex as infants. All of this was completely normal to me, and I never thought seriously about leaving. The clients I was forced to have sex with were very rich and powerful, very important VIPs. They were in law enforcement, doctors, psychiatrists, judges, politicians, even people who owned sports teams. I attended many parties for people who had just got elected into office. When I would attend these events, I had to look pretty and act like I belonged there. I had to know how to hold a conversation about politics for me. At parties where people knew what we were there for, the clients would treat us really poorly. Many times clients were physically abusive. I've had broken fingers and broken ribs and been kicked a lot in the head, and I've even been sat on and smothered. The clients all had different expectations for what they wanted from me and what they wanted me to do. Sometimes they would bring little boys into the room and they would make me have sex with them. Many of the boys were as young as 5. To this day, I still wonder if I raped those little boys or if they raped me.
Now, you weren't allowed to use the word trafficked, correct? Why is that?
Because the man who owns me said that I wasn't trafficked. I was made for that, and trafficking is when girls who aren't made for that get kidnapped or sold into it.
You said you could tell the difference between girls that were born into it according to him, versus those that were kidnapped when you encountered them? How could you tell the difference between the two?
The girls that weren't born into it, they had a harder time. They were always kept tied up or in cages, and they cried a lot.
Did he tell you how you came to be with him?
He said that my parents had me for him.
That they actually had you on purpose for him?
Yeah.
Where are your biological parents now?
I don't know.
Do you know what country they're from?
No.
Do you know if it's Europe, U.S.?
When I spoke to them, we spoke in English.
When you began to be exploited by him, what are the first things that you remember?
I remember being really little and a lot of men being around me and taking turns.
And do you remember how old you were when you first had sex?
It was before I could talk. I was used to it by the time I was 2.
Do you know how old you are?
No.
Do you have any idea?
Probably about 23.
That's a guess, right?
Yeah, I looked at like on Facebook where they say you're a child of the 90s if you remember these toys and stuff like that, and so then I try to guess from that. The man who owns me is smart and rich. He has connections with very powerful people all over the world. My whole life, he made sure that I knew he was in complete control. He would give me commands like a dog, like come or sit or stay. I would have to obey them or I'd get in trouble. Sometimes I would have to be a dog for days. So I would ask myself why this was happening to me, but I always knew it's because the dogs were behaving better than I was. When I would get in trouble, the man who owns me would have really rough sex with me, take sharp blades and cut me. He would take all of my clothes and blankets and make me wet, so I'd be cold. Sometimes he would throw me in the bathtub and hold my face down. Every time I was really scared that I was going to die, but then I was really sad when he would let me live. Sometimes I was kept in a cage that was locked and hung from the ceiling. The cages were barely big enough for me to even be in. There was no one I could turn to for help. I was under his control and there was nothing I could do about it. When I was 7 years old, the man who owns me gave me a gun and said that he would show me how to kill myself. He told me that if I ever want to leave him, this is my only chance. First, he put the gun right here, and he told me not to shoot myself right here because I might flinch and it would just go through my jaw. Then he put the gun inside my mouth, pointing up, and he told me not to shoot myself right there because, again, I might flinch. He put the gun right here to my chest, and he said I would most likely miss my heart. Finally, he said to place it right up against my head, to take a deep breath in, let it halfway out, and then pull the trigger. I pulled the trigger and nothing happened. The gun wasn't loaded. I immediately got punished for trying to leave him. When that happened, I realized that he would never let me die.
Violence was part of your life with this man.
Yes.
You say that you have witnessed him murder people.
Yes.
How many people have you seen him murder?
Probably about 20 or 25, but then there would be lots of times that he would be there and have other people do it.
And how would he murder these people?
One time he just took the little girl's head and twisted it. He's shot people.
Did he kill children?
I know for sure he killed her.
You were there. And how old were you at this point?
About 4.
And you're guessing at these ages, right? Because you don't know. You said that he has actually forced you to kill people. How did you do it?
One time he had me hold like a newborn baby. He said that I had to hold it by the neck because newborn babies can't keep their head up by themselves. The baby died. I didn't know that he said that the baby had fallen asleep, that I had put the baby to sleep. I didn't realize till later that I had killed it.
Kendall says the cycle of children being born into trafficking continued when she gave birth to 3 children, all of whom she claims are still with her abusers.
When I was in the world of sex trafficking, I gave birth to children. I was allowed to get pregnant because men paid for that. I was pregnant several times, but I had several abortions. I had 3 that survived, 2 girls and a boy. Baby, they were taken away, but sometimes I would get to see them later as a reward. I don't know who their fathers are or where they are. I would like to have my kids with me, but I feel like if I did, I would just get them in trouble. It's been so difficult that even now I try to forget that I've had them.
Were you involved in raising these children?
No.
So how quickly were they taken away from you?
Right after I had them.
So you've not seen them? You don't have a relationship with them?
I've seen them several times for like if I did something right or if he wanted me to do something, sometimes he would say I could see one of them after. And there was the younger girl I had, I saw her more often than the other 2.
Now, when he started trafficking you in a commercial way, how many times would you be expected to perform in a day?
I don't know. It's hard to even know sometimes when the day ended.
Would you see 3 or would you see 15?
More like 15.
In a day?
Yeah, unless, if the client paid for something exclusive, then you could be with him longer. Or if they were doing something different than just sex, you have to finish with the client, do whatever they want. But if it was just sex, it would be a lot of men.
Okay, and when you would see 15 a day, where would you see them? Would it be in a hotel? Would they come to you? Would you go to them? Where would you see that many people?
A lot of times I would go to parties, and that's where I would see them. Sometimes they would come to me if I was being punished for something and I was put in one of his brothels, then they would come there. Sometimes I just would live in a room for a while where the men would come, but sometimes I would live somewhere and we would go to visit the men.
Uh-huh. And when you were flown, you said sometimes you were put on a private jet and flown into a big event, and you had to dress up and be highly groomed, and so you would fit in.
For the clothes, usually a guy would come in with a lot of expensive clothes and dress us up. I also had a hair and makeup artist.
That would fix you up for a big event?
Yeah.
And how much would you charge these people?
I didn't charge them anything.
You didn't handle the money?
No.
So it was direct to, who did handle the money?
I guess the people working for the man who owns me.
You say you had 6 fake passports, right? These passports were created and given to you by this man, correct?
Yeah, by one of the people who worked for him.
Right. And you would use that to fly to another country to go to some event, correct?
Yeah, or just to go see a client.
You say that you would rather die than go back to him. True?
Yeah.
Have you tried to end your own life? How many times?
Probably 7 to 10 times over the past 1.5 or 2 years.
Mm-hmm. You say you feel a strong draw to go back to him.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know exactly why. I just... like I belong there, and I feel bad every day that I'm not with him. I mean, he said that he's the only person who can ever help me, and so I feel like that's true.
Have you ever watched the Dr. Phil show?
Yes. It scared me.
Yeah. What scared you about it?
You're a rich white guy, and that scared me. I thought that you maybe know him. And also, like, you don't seem to like it when people lie, and I feel like all of these things are lies.
What do you mean that all these things are lies?
Like, he really made me learn the difference between the truth and the lie. And all of the things that I'm saying now are the lies that I'm never allowed to say.
What were you allowed to say?
The truth. He loves me. He was the only one who would be a father to me. He's always done what's best for me and taken care of me.
But the reality is, he had you do all the things that we've talked about here. That's the reality.
Yeah, the reality and the truth aren't the same thing.
The truth is what he's told you?
Yeah, well, the reality is like what's happened. The truth is that none of that was bad.
It was okay to kill somebody.
Yeah.
It was okay to have sex with a 5-year-old boy.
Yeah.
It was okay to hold a baby by its neck until it died. It was okay to have 3 children and give them away for...
Because those things had a higher purpose.
You tell me what he thinks. What do you think?
I'm confused.
Do you think he's a sick son of a bitch?
No.
You think he's a good guy that loves you?
More than anybody else has.